Welcome to the School of Hollywood. I'm your host, Steve Owens, with 25 years in the industry. I've worn many hats: film and TV producer, music producer, talent agent, and talent manager. Today, we're bringing you something special, something that will lift you up and inspire you to chase your dreams. Each of us has dreams, a vision where we want to be. Whether it's acting, directing, producing, or singing, it's about the journey and the person you want to become. Now let's get started with the School of Hollywood. Hi, this is Steve Owens with School of Hollywood, and I've got Justin Cimino with me today, who's in New York City, who actually teaches clowning. That is the first time I've ever heard for actors to get involved in. Tell me a little bit how you got started in that.
Sure. I trained as an actor myself at Tisch here in New York City. And though I was in the Meisner studio, meaning I was primarily learning the Meisner technique, we were required to take clown, just like we were required to take voice and movement, which are more normal requirements in an acting conservatory. We had to take clown, and that was my first ever encounter for sure. But I walked out of that class, clown, and that program saying, Meisner really worked for me, certainly. It's one tool I still use, but I walked out of there going, this clown work is the most impactful actor training tool to me as an actor. Uh, and I was off to the races from there.
Fantastic. How do you define the essence of clowning and what distinguishes it from other forms of performances?
Sure. Here's the thing. It's a very large umbrella, actually, when you say that word, and people get confused. They may think circus clown. First off, they usually think circus clown. They might think it, the scary clown in the sewer. And so I have to tell them my type of clown that I teach and that I've trained in is neither of those things, but nothing against both of them. The umbrella term clown can encompass those two things, and it can also encompass a commedia dell'arte tradition going way back from the Italian. It can sometimes encompass mime, which we know as its own specific thing. At times it gets into mask, but the essence of what I teach can be traced back to a clown teacher still teaching late in his life in Paris named Philippe Gaulier. And then descended from him, there's a teacher teaching this specific type of clown work in the US and has been for a long time at all the best training institutions. His name is Christopher Bays. This work, we say, reverts the actor back in time to rediscover their little one, the childlike them, who is also their clown. That's the you we say of age 5 or 6, different for everyone, but it's the you before you were socialized, we say. So that means before anyone ever told you no. So no, you can't wear that. Boys don't do this, girls don't do this. You can't cry. You're a boy. Why does your laugh sound like that, Nanan? And this socialization builds up on us like plaque, I like to say. And the actor in training, I find, has to do the work to chip away at this socialization that is built up in order to be most open, most available, most vulnerable. I think we'll probably talk about vulnerability, actor, artist that they can be. So through various exercises in this class, we try to get back there to that extremely playful time when we were the little one and hope it informs our acting work from there.
When an actor is doing this, do they have to wear makeup on their face, or is this done without it?
Yeah, great question. That's more of the realm of the circus clown, of course. No makeup usually in this specific kind of work. The only thing we will get to, which is thought of as from the world of the circus clown, is a red nose. But that's the only mask. It's a small mask. It's the only costume, if you will, that we put on in our world of clown. But we do a lot of work without nose. So it's just Justin, just me as a clown. And then we'll get to some work with the nose, which changes you into a totally different thing.
How has your teaching evolved over the years?
Yeah, great question. I think it's funny. I think I can trace the popularity of clown work that I've seen growing over the years, or it coming more and more into the consciousness. I can track that alongside my teaching changing. I used to, at first, I only taught clown and my classes weren't too large, and I'd reach out to places and say, do you want clown work in your acting conservatory? And they'd say they'd never heard of it, or they already had something like it. And so it was this small, very niche thing. And over the years, now at Terry Knickerbocker Studio, where in Brooklyn, where I mainly teach clown, it's maybe the most popular supplementary class now by 2024. I teach 4 levels of it, which is insane thinking back to the beginning. I've expanded it out to include devising original work in addition to clown. And then I also teach at Pace University in their BFA acting program, and I find myself bringing a ton of clown work into what is a general acting class which fascinates me every day. It and so I find for freshmen who I teach, the clown work is incredibly foundational, which is, of course, what they need when they're just starting out their acting training journey. These tools that it gives of opening you up, of bringing down walls and masks and all that socialization. These are the things I believe an actor must do first as a foundational training before moving on to anything else, before moving on to playing a character, before moving on to scene work. And so, again, I guess I'd just say my teaching, wherever I teach and whatever kind of acting class it is informed ever more by clown.
It sounds like the class actually could be used for influencers and stand-up comics to actually help in the performance of the stage, being on stage and doing the videos on TikTok and Instagram kind of a thing, not just
Ab-
for actors.
Absolutely. I have a clown teacher friend who, a few years ago, when TikTok blast onto the scene, he said to me, "Oh my God, this is the modern day clown. The creativity, the originality, the bits, right? To use the term, a comedic bit. You can trace that from Chaplin's bits to bits, stupid bits that people are doing on TikTok. So there's a new format for it today, which maybe is contributing to the renewed popularity. And I'll just say what you mentioned, stand-up comedy. There's a lot of discussion in the comedy world about how that form has really changed and how people are experimenting with it in wild ways, right? So Bo Burnham, who's done a lot of traditional stand-up, and yet some of his most recent stuff is weird and unique and very clown, I find.
How would you actually use this? Say you're going on Law and Order and you're going in for a drama role. How
Yeah.
would you actually incorporate the clowning technique within a drama role?
Totally great question. You bring up clown and you bring up Law and Order, and I bring up Bill Irwin, one of our most famous American clowns. He's most known for his traditional clowning work and mostly on stage. And yet, if you look at his IMDb, he's got a ton of dramatic roles, and he's been on Law and Order SVU multiple times in dramatic roles. And what I say when people ask this question about bringing it to dramatic work is when I start to talk about vulnerability. And vulnerability, I equate to this word softness for the actor. And I see that vulnerability and softness in Bill Irwin, no matter what, comedic role or dramatic role. And softness, I also mean easily impacted by the other, by the scene partner, by other ensemble members. Things really hit them, things really mean something to them. They show their emotions on their sleeve. I often talk about the actress Sally Hawkins. Not positive she's had clown training, But whenever I see her in a comedic or dramatic role, there's just a softness to her. Same with Mark Rylance, one of our greatest. So then I say again, clown, bringing you back to the little one means bringing you back to the way we used to play make believe, which was that we could believe anything. And like that, put on a crown and you're immediately a king. No commenting on it, no winking at it. You are it.
Exactly.
That spirit I try to bring back to my actors in training.
Here's a tough question for you. Starting your career all over again, would you start with clowning or would you start with acting class?
Great question. I would start with clowning.
And
Yeah.
why?
It's that thing I said earlier about it being, I believe it can be a foundational technique for the actor. Learning Meisner from the beginning is a foundational technique. It's all about the imagination, as Meisner is as well. It is safe. It feels safe in that sense, in that when we're dealing in the imagination, we avoid being re-traumatized, which can happen in certain acting techniques, people say. And again, it's this playful, fun way in to learning this craft, I find over and over again. I teach also at Pace acting to dance students. Their main thing is dance. I come in on the first day, they're terrified to be asked to act. And yet, clown informed, I realized clown needed to inform my curriculum there too, because it was the foundation, it was the way in, the play shook them up, got them out of their heads, got them, again, playing as the way in.
How would you consider it to be different from an improv class?
Another great question, an important distinction that I'm often making. It's related in that there's a lot of improvisation happening in this clown work. There's very rarely text being used. In that way, it's all Justin's words. Again, similar to the Meisner technique. And that's why I think Terry Knickerbocker at his studio and back in my Tisch training believed that Meisner and clown match because of the emphasis on improvisation and the actor only using their words for much of the training. So that's the way it's similar. And the way that it's different, I say, is that I find nothing against improv classes, but I find at times that work can put us into our heads. And clown is always about getting out of our head into our heart and into our body. So I find at times improvisers can go up here for the bit, for the joke, for what's going to be funny first of all, right? And in clown, we believe that can lead us astray of the work.
So, Justin, do you do any classes that are on Zoom, for example, like people on the West Coast who might be interested, besides just being in New York?
Yeah, it's so interesting from 2020 to 2022, when we all had to pivot. I at first thought this very physical clown work, very much in our bodies, very much wanting to run around a big space, cannot work. And then it did work on Zoom. Part of my adaptation was having actors make some Chaplin-esque, silent film-esque pieces filmed. And that felt revolutionary, not to toot my own horn. But so it can be done. And unfortunately, maybe you found in the last 2 years or so, I think people were so eager to move away from Zoom that my Zoom classes have gone away. That doesn't mean I'm not open to bringing them back, as you say, for accessibility purposes, so that people on the West Coast or in other countries can still get to do the work. I will say people in LA should research clown going on in LA, because just like over here, there's more and more of it by the day. There's an incredible school called The Clown School, led by a teacher, an amazing clown teacher, been teaching for many years, named David Brydell, in LA. So if people could do it there in person, and he does a ton of stuff on Zoom as well. But these days, thankfully, it feels like it's everywhere.
How can people reach out to you?
Oh, I guess my real clown home is Terry Knickerbocker Studio in Brooklyn. And my email through there is just Justin at Terry Knickerbocker Studio, all one word, .com. They can find out about my in-person classes in New York by getting in touch with me there. Thanks for having me.